Guidelines for developing rules. The goal of positive discipline is not to control or manipulate children externally, but to develop the child's inner control and his own sense of responsibility and respect for the rights of others. So what this means is you don't want to bribe a child into behaving. You want to help the child develop a sense of right and wrong and monitor their own behavior. In positive communication, we focus on identifying and stating desired behaviors rather than focusing on inappropriate behaviors. So when you create your rules, you want to use positive statements that communicate to the child what you would like to see them do rather than telling them what you don't want to see them do. In early childhood and elementary school, it is helpful to post 2 pictures of what children can do and 1 picture of unacceptable behavior for each rule you create. So when you create the rules, you want to give visual cues as to what you expect. And Dr. Bailey recommends giving 2 clues and then 1 picture of what is not acceptable. My first rule is walking feet. We don't want to tell the children not to run through the classroom. You want to remind them that we always use our walking feet in the classroom. And there are 2 photos of children walking, and then 1 example of what we don't want to see, which is a child running. The next rule is helping hands. Rather than telling a child not to hit another friend, we tell them that our hands are used for helping others. And there's an example of children using their hands to help each other build in blocks. Another picture that just shows an example of caring. And the third example of what we don't want to see is a child hitting another child. The third rule is kind words. Rather than telling a child that we don't talk to each other that way, we tell them we always use kind words with our friends. There's 2 examples of different things that they can say that are kind. And then there's an example that shows a child verbally bullying another child, and that's what we do not want to see. The final rule is chewing teeth. Rather than telling a student that we don't bite, we remind them that teeth are for chewing food. And then there's 2 examples of people eating. And then there's an example that shows a child biting another child, and that's not what we want to see. These are some things to keep in mind when a rule is broken. The consequence of the first offense, instead of a warning, is to choose again and be helpful in the school family. So when you give a warning, you aren't really addressing the behavior. You're just telling them you don't want to see that. Instead, give them the opportunity to choose a different behavior that will be helpful in the classroom. The consequence of an action is how we feel about the outcome. When you're talking with a child about why their behavior was inappropriate, you want to point out the feelings that are involved. How did the victim, if you will, of the broken rule feel about that? And then how does that make the student who broke the rule feel? And the consequences do not teach, they motivate. When you talk to those children about how they felt when the rule was broken, you want to use those feelings to help motivate the child to make a better choice on how to behave in the classroom.